The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Shirley. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fab, a segment of the Forever Fab podcast where I review products, services, experiences, and frankly, whatever, in 15 minutes or less. If the full-length podcast is a couture dress, for example, then 15 Minutes of Fab is like a button-down French cuff white shirt paired with leather leggings. If you don't have time to tune into the full-length podcast, then check out 15 Minutes of Fab, just a small dose. Some have considered it truth and beauty or plastic surgery secrets or as a nerdy or academic take on wellness and beauty with a dash of fashion. Consider it what you may. My aim is to engage you as a credible and authoritative voice in most, if not all aspects of beauty and wellness with a dash of fashion. That includes products, wellness services, technologies, innovations, new scientific research, and plastic surgery. As the founder of Holistic Plastic Surgery, my approach to beauty is through a lens of wellness that's grounded in science, backed by medical study and research, strengthened by my clinical experience, and bolstered by my surgical training with the use of principles and techniques of plastic surgery. And then there's my love of fashion. Of course, I feel uniquely qualified to talk with you about beauty, wellness, aesthetics, and plastic surgery, as well as products and services within those spaces, not only because of my extensive, and may I add, expensive training and expansive background, but also because I'm one of you. Many of the human issues around aging and being a fierce fab person, as well as an agent for positive change, I live these too, and I try. You're not alone. So together we can help the world become a more beautiful, forever fab place. So if you'll have me and give me at least 15 minutes of your time, let's get at it. In this new year, I've decided that it will be one of expansion and discovery. So I'll explore all sorts of topics, near and possibly far-fetched, while still focusing on the topics that make the Forever Fab podcast, well, fabulous, namely fashion, the art of living well or wellness, and beauty. As part of my philosophy of holistic plastic surgery, which I created well over probably now 15 years ago, where I believe that beauty emanates from within, wellness plays an integral role in my practice. And this goes for many aspects of life that help you to live in grace and beauty, including nutrition, exercise, products, services, technologies, mind, body, spirit, and science. This episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast is dedicated to luxury. And the title of this week's episode of 15 Minutes of Fab is Something Big is Coming, Yet It Has Always Been Here. This is a reading from a report on strategies in longevity and wellness. The other day, I attended a conference created and executed by my very good friend, Kelly Kovac. She's the founder and CEO of Beauty Matter, and she had appeared in the early days of this podcast. I will remain forever grateful for her support. The conference, called Future 50, brings together the brightest of talents in the beauty industry to discuss what was, what is, and what will be in the dynamic field. If you are a beauty devotee or founder, creator, or an executive in the space, it behooves you to attend this annual conference. You can see the link on the foreverfabpodcast.com website. So during the morning session of Future 50, the keynote was delivered by a man named Chris Sanderson. He is the co-founder of the Future Laboratory. And I believe Future Laboratory just merged with the Together Group. So there's just chock full of data and information in that establishment. The insights that were made actually made me cheer, using my inside voice, of course. And they bestowed upon me a feeling of validation and gratitude. I had been speaking this truth since the early 2000s when I established my plastic surgery practice and when I founded the philosophy of holistic plastic surgery. Yet, year after year, it seemed that either no one believed me or knew what I was talking about or wanted to hear about how beauty was integrally intertwined with health and well-being. I remember a patient asking me, I was standing and checking in or checking out another patient, and this other patient was standing there who was not my patient, but a patient of the doctor with whom I shared the office. And she was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Plastic surgery, but my approach is holistic." And her question to me was, "Well, what is holistic plastic surgery like? Do you use herbs on your scalpel?" It was cute. It was cute. But I'll never forget that. So nonetheless, despite the confusion or perhaps my, lack of marketing it purposefully and intentionally and with a certain edge, I kept going because that was my truth. That was what I wanted my patients to understand, to feel, and to see, that beauty really has a holistic foundation, and that whether it's along a spectrum or part of one large circle of life and love, beauty is definitely related to, integral to, intertwined with, founded upon, in cahoots with health and well-being, and now perhaps even longevity. So it's upon this keynote that I heard at Future 50 by Beauty Matter that this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab is wholly based. The highlights of the report, entitled Longevity and Wellness Strategies, the Convergence of Beauty, Health, and Hospitality. These highlights serve as a foundation for what follows in this podcast. And because the key points are so on point, I'll list them as direct quotes from the report. So the key findings of this report are, and I quote, number 1, longevity and well-being are luxury's ultimate proposition. Surging interest in longevity, the Global Wellness Institute estimates that the global market will reach $610 billion by 2025. That's like now. And that whole number and that space and what's happening about longevity and well-being, entering into the sort of luxury mindset, is rewriting the luxury playbook across beauty, health, and hospitality. Explained Christian Kurtzky, who is the CEO of the Together Group. Christian Kurtzky of the Together Group states that, quote, the ultimate luxury value proposition is now about extending and enriching our lifespan and well-being. Second highlight, number 2, transformational luxury is redefining traditional values. Consumers increasingly view luxury as a means of achieving self-actualization and deeper connections. Klaus Sendlinger, who's the co-founder of Slow, notes, I believe that the future stakeholder or guest is even more convinced that spending money on a belief system is more important than spending it on a brand. End quote. I'm reopening the quotes. Another highlight, number 3, synergies between beauty, health, and hospitality unlock opportunity. As previously distinct sectors merge, multi-layered and synergistic experiences are becoming the new standard, unlocking a new future for brand engagement. Research from the Global Wellness Institute, or formerly Global Web Index, reveals that 77% of luxury consumers prefer to buy a product or service simply or the experience of being part of a brand's community. I continue from the report. Number 4, hyper-personalization as a new benchmark of exclusivity. Leveraging health technology and diagnostic tools allows brands to craft tailored solutions. Number 5, purpose-built wellness environments are leveling up luxury hospitality. Wellness real estate is one of the fastest growing subsets of the $6.3 trillion, with a TR, $trillion wellness economy, which is itself projected to grow at a rate of 7.3% annually to 2028, according to the Global Wellness Institute. Rebecca Burtis, Global Head of Guest Experience and Services at Mayborn, explains how environments must actively support well-being by saying, quote, each of our spaces at Seren is designed to hold the guest and to deliver a specific feeling or function, end quote. The 6th highlight of the report, quote, bridging the gap between science, healthcare, and hospitality. Luxury brands are uniquely positioned to fill the space between cutting-edge science and conventional healthcare. Sonu Shivdasani, co-founder of Suniva, states, the opportunity for luxury hospitality is to bridge the gap and offer clients what they can't get from their local GP or hospital. End quote. Other salient points in the report include what Chris Sanderson, the co-founder and chief creative officer of Future Laboratories, stated, and that is, quote, beauty will be to the luxury industry what fashion has been since the 90s, the driver of change, the benchmark of future expectations, end quote. Do you know how thrilled I was to read that there is, after all, a relationship between fashion and beauty, a concept I've been promoting for decades? I was so happy to hear and then again to read the report because I had to see it and hold it and feel it in my hands. I was so delighted, and I'll use the word again, I felt validated. Yes, of course, the consumer and the client expectations change often. That's why the luxury, fashion, and beauty markets are so topsy-turvy and dynamic. Yet, I believe that what underlies fundamental human desires is the need to have beauty in our lives in as many forms as possible. This includes beauty in our immediate environment, our workspace, at home, in what we wear and how we dress, and definitely in how we look and feel. In my opinion, this is a foundational and integral truth that will never change. Now, another poignant excerpt from the report reads that what is becoming increasingly essential is, quote, the art of becoming. Modern luxury is pivoting from material scarcity to time, quality, and human-centered craftsmanship as its new currencies. The scarcity of luxury is no longer about the rare materials that go into making products, observes Together Group's Kurtzky. It's more human-centered, both in terms of how luxury products and experiences are being created and also how they are received, the transformation they deliver to consumers on a human level. End quote. Almost 2/3, or 61% of customers, want brands to help them feel and experience more intense emotions, according to Wunderman Thompson. This reflects a growing societal focus on fulfillment over fleeting gratification. The implications for luxury beauty are significant, with surface-level aspirations traded for a more well-rounded vision of beauty and health. In other words, evolving from narrowly defined categories to holistic, transformative experiences. End quote. Now, that may have sounded very sort of numbers-oriented or, kind of heady, but again, the bottom line is holism, and that through holistic beauty, transformation and transformative experiences can happen. The final point I will emphasize in this report echoes what I have long held, that, quote, science is the standard. No longer content with vague promises, Luxury consumers are demanding measurable outcomes, scientific validation, and transparency from the products and services they invest in. This is transforming luxury into a sector increasingly marked by precision and innovation. We are speeding into the age of the expert. For beauty and wellness, this equates to research, testing, proof points, and facts that will foster understanding, trust, and positive sentiment among audiences, says Martin Raymond, co-founder of the Future Laboratory. Where beauty, wellness, luxury, and hospitality intersect, savviness among consumers is rising. Brands themselves are observing the change. Our consumers have evolved more in the past 3 years than in the 30 years prior, says Stéphane Lanuzel, Beauty Tech Program Director at L'Oréal, putting this shift firmly into perspective. Consequently, trust in science has never been higher, with the Edelman Trust Barometer reporting that 75% of people globally rank scientists as their most trusted source of information. The notion of self is now more important than ever within luxury. As highlighted by Burdess, it's incredible how quickly the idea of self has become intrinsic to people. Notions of self-actualization and self-optimization are now mainstream. This has now permeated the general mindset, not specific to a type of consumer, a type of guest, or even a generation. This quest for transformation is even redefining traditional concepts of value. In the APAC region, 58% of affluent consumers describe time as a greater luxury than money. Source: Vice Media Group. Meanwhile, within the beauty sector, 50% of global consumers now define beauty as looking healthy, reports Euromonitor. Whether it is through hospitality that fosters introspection or offerings that encourage long-term personal growth, the art of becoming represents a transformational new paradigm for luxury, and one that aligns with the evolving values of today's consumers. Period. End quote. That's exactly what I've been saying and describing for years. Perhaps not as eloquently, though. Anyway, so the next time you engage in some self-care, or decide to get facial fillers, or participate in a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, or purchase a new item of dress, consider that you are seeking luxury through beauty for your health, happiness, and holistic well-being. This concludes this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay beautiful and forever fabulous, inside and out. Thank you for listening to this week's Forever Fab podcast episode of 15 Minutes of Fab. Until next time, live well, prosper, and stay beautiful, inside and out, and stay forever fab. If you like this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast, please share it and subscribe to the feed. Did you learn anything new? Review this episode by writing just one word to describe the value you got from listening today, and give this episode a 5-star rating. In case you missed it, listen to this episode, past episodes, or check out who's coming up next on foreverfabpodcast.com. If you enjoy listening to the Forever Fab podcast, get more audio and more visuals with a membership through Patreon. Choose the gold, platinum, or diamond tier for premium added content, special co-hosts, lifestyle videos, branded merchandise, and more by visiting patreon.com/foreverfab. And if you are a founder of or represent a beauty or wellness brand and you want to be featured on an episode of Forever Fab podcast segment of 15 Minutes of Fab, send me some stuff. Visit foreverfabpodcast.com and fill out the contact form. For general holistic beauty tips or to get set up an appointment with me to discuss your personalized options for leveling up your beauty, go to elementsandgraces.com and sign up for my newsletter. And for an online e-consultation on time, anytime, and on your time, visit clicklift.com for your wellness, plastic surgery, and beauty questions on the go. And it's time for the elevated house call, wouldn't you say? Jet Set Beauty RX offers beauty on-call services near your home or other domicile, delivering beauty in the privacy of a medically equipped, state-of-the-art mobile aesthetics unit. Reserve at jetsetbeautyrx.com. That's all for now. Thank you for sharing the love. Goodbye, gorgeous.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD. Live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.